Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what time it is? It's Thursday morning. It's 9:30 East Coast, or for me, it's 6:30 Pacific. I'm on the West Coast this week. And I don't know if you know Dana Point. It's right between Los Angeles and San Diego. So always a pleasure to join you. And today I'm feeling royalty right today. I got my King shirt on, right? So we're ready to rock and roll. I usually like to be the first one to join, but we had a few early folks today. We had Zach and Jeff join us. So welcome, welcome, welcome. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Yep, Zach, it's another beautiful Thursday morning, right, where we get to go live and we get to talk about my favorite topic on the planet, and that is, are you ready to become world class? Right? We're not about average. We're not about good enough. I don't want you just to be a Ciso. I want you to be world class because guess what? When you're world class, you're in charge, right? You're controlling your destiny and you have total freedom. If you're just a Ciso and you're so afraid of losing your job or you're so afraid of finding the next job, you're not enjoying life, right? You're not in control. Somebody else is in control. So that's really the whole point of world class, is that not only are you the best, but because you are the best, you get to control your destiny and where you're going. So, Jeff, we'll start off with your question this morning. You speak of engineers growing to Ciso, but what about people that come up on the GRC side or people involved in senior meetings, senior policy, strategy, driving security initiatives? It's real simple. In order to be a world-class Ciso, there's many characteristics, but one of the foundational ones that are absolutely needed is you must be fluent in business, you must be fluent in cybersecurity, and you must be able to, on the fly, translate between the two of them. So that's really the core skill set. Now, there's other things that we work on and build on, but that's really foundational. If you can't speak both languages, you're not going to be a successful Ciso. Now, you're right, Jeff, I tend to be more biased towards the person that has cybersecurity skills. I tend to be biased because that's about 85% of my clients, the people that follow me, the people that show up to Life of a Ciso podcast tend to be more on that side. So most of the advice I'm giving is, how do you get more business skill? How do you get more business focus? Because if you only can speak cybersecurity, you're going to get along great with the technical folks, but you're going to basically be a glorified security engineer because the executives are not going to want to talk to you. The executives are not going to want to associate with you. But Jeff, what you bring up is the opposite problem, which is, what if you have more business skill? What if you have more on the business side of the house where you're very comfortable with business language, profit and loss, and margins and all that language, and you get along very, very well with the executives? Problem, because all you speak is business, you're not going to get along as well with the security folks, and you're not going to have the security knowledge, and they're going to isolate you. So now we have this different situation where, great, you're invited to board meetings, you're invited to executive meetings, but you're not really making the organization more secure because the folks that you need to direct and lead basically don't respect you, isolate you, and don't talk to you. So it's just the opposite problem that we had before. So it's the same solution, is immersion and learning. So if you're very strong on cybersecurity, you should be hanging out with business folks, reading business books, going to business conferences. You should immerse yourself on the business side. But with your question, if you're much more involved on senior meetings, senior policy, strategy, and that's what you're really good at, then you need to go in and immerse yourself with technical folks. You need to hang out with technical folks. You need to go to technical conferences. You need to read technical books and need to focus in on those areas. So it's really the same advice and problem. It's just, instead of focusing on getting stronger on business, you're focusing on stronger on security. Now, GRC is a little different because I would sort of say, if you're doing sort of the governance, regulation, compliance, that type of work, you're probably okay in both. So you have basic understanding in cyber, you have basic understanding in business, but you're not fluent in either, right? There could be a good or a bad, right? Because the good is you got a little bit of both. The bad is you really can't fluently speak either. So in that case, you would have to work in both areas. You'd have to crank up the security a little more. You'd have to crank up the business a little more. But honestly, as you move more and more into true Ciso roles where you're really a Ciso with a team of 15, 20 security folks, and you're working for Fortune 50 companies, you really want it to shift where it's going to probably be 60 to 70% business and 30 to 40% really on the cybersecurity technical side. That's where I find sort of the sweet spot for the really high end. But what happens with most folks is when you get your first Ciso job, small, medium sized company, you're still doing a little techie. So it's really more 30% business and 60, 70% security. I don't like it, but that's the reality. And then as you move up to more mid-level companies, it starts to even out. And then it tends to teeter out sort of at that 60-40 mark on it. But the important part is, where is your strength and where is your weakness? What do you need to work on? And then, as many of you know, I'm very big on targets. I'm very big on 1 month targets, 1 week targets, and daily targets. So right now, sitting here today, in 5 seconds, I want you to answer, which one are you stronger on? Security or business? Which one are you weaker on? And then I want you right now, based on the one you're weaker on, identify one thing you're going to do this week and schedule it on your calendar as soon as you get off this live. And some of you are like, well, I'll do it. No. I want you, as soon as you get off this live, I want you, if you said to read a book and that book's going to take 5 hours, I want you to go in your calendar right now and I want you to schedule out 5 hours. I don't care if it's 45 minutes a day for 7 days or how you want to do it. Schedule it out and do it. Now, here's the test. I'm going to ask you next week. Those of you that actually did it, you are serious and focused on what you want, and you're going to get what you want. Those of you that said, oh, Eric, I got too busy or I don't have time or this or that, let me tell you, the biggest lie on the planet is we don't have time. You have time. The question is, are you using it for high priority items that are important, or are you using it to be busy? Right? But ultimately, you sort of decide how you use your time. All right, we got our friend Pookie from Buenos Dias. You always confuse me because I feel like we're coming from Spain with Buenos Dias, but then you say checking in from Atlanta. So I always enjoy getting that morning text. What happened to my screen? Hold on, my screen just went a little wacky. Okay, here we go. So we got a question from Zach. Oh, by the way, good morning. Good morning. Zach, do you think the practice of trying to quantify risk on a 1 to 5 range is futile? Same with heat maps. Should we just focus on using financial terms when presenting to leadership or the board? It is so interesting that you're bringing that up, because this has been my laboratory for the last couple of months. And I wasn't ready to share the results, but since you asked, I will share preliminary results with you. Those of you that follow me know that my go-to way to brief executives has always been, what is the problem, likelihood of occurrence, cost if it occurs, and cost to fix it. Now, one of the things I've been noticing when I've been briefing more boards is the risk or the exposure or what could happen. Yeah, most of the time they have a little understanding of it. If you're bringing up ransomware or data exfiltration or those types of problems, at some level, they're like, yeah, we recognize that's an issue. And usually the likelihood of occurrence, you can get pretty good agreement on. So yes, it's an estimate, but if I say 90, I don't think anyone in there is going to say 40, right? Maybe 85, 95, but I don't really get pushback on that. And then the cost to fix it, that's pretty much the cost to fix it. I mean, there's not a lot of arguments on that. I guess you could come up with cheaper solutions, right, from vendors or cheaper options, but that one also is pretty steady state. The one I've been getting a lot of pushback on in the last couple of months and for this year has been on the cost of it occurs, because that's really variable, right? You don't know what type of, even with ransomware, we see ransom payments anywhere from 100K to 5 million, and depends on the amount of data, depends on when you detect it, right? How many records are compromised, how many people have been impacted. So that one really has a lot of variance, and it's been causing some pressure where when I brief to the executive boards and go over it, that's the one they're like, but is it really 5 mil? Or is it really 3 mil? Is it really 1 mil? Or is it really 500K? And that's the one where if they push back and you lose them on it, you're not going to be able to sell. So what I've been experimenting with, and like I said, this has been my laboratory, but since Zach asked a great question, I'm going to cover it. I've been going in, and instead of, now it's interesting, I don't go in and sort of use 1 through 5 in terms of critical this or that. What I compare it to is the category of a hurricane, right? So if you have hurricanes, you have different categories. Now, the category of the hurricane doesn't directly determine damage, but it shows you the potential for damage. So what I've been doing is I've been going in and saying, okay, here's what could happen, likelihood of occurrence, the damage assessment, the category rating of the hurricane, right? The category rating of the risk. And yes, I've been using 1 through 5. And then what is the cost to fix it? And I found that that tends to resonate very well with them, because now they can understand, okay, we have 2 category 5s, we have 3 category 4s, we have 2 category 3s, right? And those tend to be things they can understand and get their arms around. Now, I still have the dollar value in my back pocket, but I found that so far my experimentation, and I've only done it with 7, I like to do 15 to 20 for it to be a real experiment. But right now, the initial results are it's very positive. So Zach, I would say if you use it strategically, in that sense, when you're briefing executives, I think it could be very helpful. Now, when you're working with your security team, I still think it's valuable to try to put a number on it, because that's going to drive the solution. If you say something's category 5, that could range, right, from 5 to 20 million, and that could range, do you spend 100K or 800K to fix it? So I find when I'm doing the initial work, I do get a dollar value, but then before I present to the executives or the board of directors, I switch only that one. That's the only one. I switch to a category rating. Everything else I keep exact numbers on. So that's what I've been working on, and so far the results have been positive. Why did you choose this path of a Ciso? What made you steer in that direction? That's actually a really, really good question. You believe it or not, that's not one I get a lot. So I'm sort of going to wing this one because, like I said, I don't have a canned answer for it. But I believe the real reason is I like to have the biggest impact possible. I really want to help the most number of people. So if you look at my career, when I first got started in cybersecurity, I wrote a lot of technical books. Hackers Beware, Network Security Bible, and I did a lot of technical training and helping folks on the technical side, because I believe in the 90s, our biggest challenge with cybersecurity was we didn't have enough technical people. It's a brand new area, right? Now, yes. I know some old school folks there, right? When I talk with Whitfield Diffie, he gets mad at me because he's like, Eric, I've been doing security in the 60s and say, yeah, yes. So I'm not, I mean, with all due respect to the amazing folks like Dorothy Denning and Whitfield Diffie and all those folks that have been doing this for a long time. But if you look mainstream corporate America, we're really talking cybersecurity. Really, they didn't have cybersecurity positions. It really wasn't a focus and area of concern to really mid or late 90s. And really, the kickoff for a lot of companies was the I Love You virus, Melissa, right? All those coming out and companies being caught off guard and not really knowing what to do or how to handle it. So in the 90s, when I was coming out of the government, I'm always about solving problems. So to me, that big problem was not enough technical people. So that's what I focused a lot of energy and effort on. Now, you could still argue that we don't have enough technical people, but I would argue that there's a lot of options available. Right? There's plenty of great books, training, and other options available for them. So what I shifted to is, okay, what's the problem? If we know the foundational items, like for example, almost all data breaches are caused by systems accessible from the internet, missing patches, uh, critical data not properly encrypted, keys stored with the data. And we know that most client side attacks are embedded links, attachments that have malicious code on them. Why aren't they being fixed? Why are we still struggling so much in cybersecurity? What I realized is you had a disconnect. You had the executives. Then when I talked to them, they're like, Eric, our number one concern is cyber. We're terrified about cyber. We're concerned about cyber, but nobody's helping us. And I go, very interesting. I go to the technical folks and they go, Eric, no one's listening to us. We have solutions to problems. And this is one of the biggest areas that's going to hurt the company. And nobody is listening. And I'm sitting there going, okay, what happens when you have two people tell you different things? When one person says, I want answers, and no one's giving them to me, and the other person says, no one's listening to me, it's a communication gap. So what I realized is that not only, and this was when I first started getting interested in Ciso, companies didn't have that translator. They didn't have that chief information security officer. So that's when I got involved in actually being a Ciso. Recently, I switched gears because what I realized is companies have CISOs, but they're not CISOs. They're basically security engineers with a CISO title because you have CISOs, but you still have the same problem. So that's when I said, okay, I could help one or two companies by being a CISO, or I could help thousands of companies by training CISOs and teaching people what it means to really be a CISO. So that's really where I switched to that current angle of doing that. But it's really all about, I love helping, I love solving problems, and I love making the world a safer place in cyberspace. So that's sort of really how I came about that transition. So next question. Hey, Eric, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what a field CISO needs to bring to the table. Okay. Apologize. I'm not sure what you mean by field CISO needs to bring to the table. So if you could just put in the comments, and I'll make sure I check them, and I'll get back to you what you mean by field CISO. I don't know if you're saying like a CISO that's remote or a CISO that's in a distributed environment. I guess I'm just not sure that word field. That's something new to me on that front. To me, a CISO is sort of a CISO that's a CISO. So if you could put a little clarification on it, that'd be awesome. So Jeff says, thanks. People love how well I traverse business to tech. I tell people that I'm the bridge. I love it, bridge from the hoodies to the C-suite. The tech people do talk to me. Just my resume isn't getting traction. Okay. Excellent point. So you have the skills, you have the criteria. Now let's just break this down. What is the sole purpose of your resume? Sole purpose of your resume is to get the interview. I'm guessing, Jeff, based on what you're telling me, that you probably crushed the interview because you understand how to speak, you bridge the gap, just based on what you wrote here, you get it, and you know your audience, and you know how to translate on the fly. So my guess is once you get into the interview process, you either do crush it or you're going to crush it if you haven't got there yet. So your problem is you're not getting the interview. Well, why aren't you getting the interview? Because my guess is your resume screams techie. When companies are looking for CISOs today, the number one criteria the executives give HR or recruiting is this: I want somebody who speaks business. I want somebody who understands strategy. I know they have the cybersecurity side, but we've done this before where we've hired world class security engineers and it doesn't work, right? It's disastrous. It just doesn't work for us. So we really want somebody with strategy. So my guess is if you go in and pull up your resume and give it to a couple of friends or a couple of family members, have them read your resume for 5 minutes, and then take it away and say, how would you summarize my experience? How would you summarize who I am? And if they go, oh, you're really good technical, or you're a good manager, that's not what you want. What you want them to walk away with, you want your resume to scream strategy, executive level cybersecurity. You use cybersecurity as a business enabler. I would actually use those types of words because that's what they're doing. It's somebody who doesn't know the position, who's reading a resume looking for reasons to disqualify you. Let me say that again because that's most people misunderstand this. When HR and recruiters review your resume, they are not looking for reasons to hire you. They're looking for reasons to exclude you. And if they find no reasons to exclude you, then they set up an interview. So it's not the, okay, I have these things. It's the part, one word could exclude you. One area or paragraph could exclude you. So I want you to look at it differently is don't go, well, it does sort of imply that I'm doing this. No. What are reasons on that resume they would exclude you? Do not have technical skills section. Do not list technical certifications. Do not use technical language or technical terms. If you don't actually have strategic titles in your company, remove them. You don't have to, you can put you work at Company X, you work at Secure Anchor. You don't have to say you're a senior security engineer. That's going to exclude you. Remove the title. Let the paragraph speak for itself. And here's the best piece of advice I can give you. You're never going to lie on your resume. I'm never going to imply that. You never want to make stuff up. But typically with most people that have been more on the security side, you want to focus on 10% of your job, not 90. Yes, 90 or 80 or 70% of your job might have been on the technical front. And that's what you want to put in your resume. But that's going to exclude you. Focus on the 10% of your job or even the 5% of your job that's strategy and business focused. Focus on briefing executives. Focus on putting together strategic plans. Focus on putting together ways to make cybersecurity a business enabler. Put together things where you help the company increase revenue and increase profit. That's what you want to focus on. It might only be 5 or 10% of your job, but you want to shine the light on the small part of your job that's important and critical for what they want, and make sure there's nothing in there that's going to trigger them to exclude you. Because you should have a resume that you're getting 10 to 15 out of 20. So if you apply to 20 jobs, you should get 10 to 15. I'm not normally selling on these things, but I just have to do a service. We just launched a course. I ran it 2 days ago. I think we're going to run it again in a month. I think it's around $4.99. So it's one of our lower end courses where it's 3 hours on how to become a CISO. And I just gave you the summary, but I basically take you through for 3 hours my 4-step process that if you follow it, once again, my attorneys don't let me guarantee anything because you have to do the work. But if you follow the process, you are going to get results. So that's another option that you might want to look at if you want to accelerate a little quicker. Okay, Dr. Cole, reading for an hour every day is very hard for me. Reading longer is even harder, especially after work. I find myself easily becoming mentally exhausted. How do you overcome this? Couple things. One is get up earlier then and read in the morning, right? Read in the morning then, or read lighter books. So I'm the same way. I'm a morning person. I'm on the West Coast right now. So I was actually, because my calls start at 6 o'clock, because that's 9 o'clock on the East Coast. I've been going business since 6 or 9 o'clock. So I got up at 4 and I did my workout, did my exercise, my journaling going in. So yes, tonight when I finally get back to my room and I have a dinner meeting, I'm going to be a little tired. But if I can watch TV for 30 or 40 minutes, why can't I read? And the trick is this: it might be reading lighter books. Like in the evening, I'm not going to read Ray Dalio's Principles, right? It's just way too heavy and I'm tired. However, I am right now reading Ed Milet's new book, One More Thing. It's sort of high level. It's a little more motivational. It has a little business in it, but it's a lighter read, right? It's an easier read for you to go in. Now, yes, if I read earlier in the day, would I go in and have a higher absorption than reading at night? Yes. But what I come down to is this: if I have 30, 45 minutes that I need to unwind before bed, watching TV or reading with even a 50% absorption, which one is going to be better? Which one is going to be better for me? And which one is going to move me forward? Right? Clearly, the reading. The other thing I would say is if you can't switch and read in the morning and you still like want to read at night, it's all a habit, right? You're initially not used to doing something. I'll tell you right now, I love exercising and pumping the weights, not so much on the cardio, right? So if I was sitting here right now today, I'd say, listen, the cardio is rough. I can't go more than 5 minutes on the treadmill. I'm just so tired. I'm so exhausted. My heart rate goes through the roof, and I'm just not able to do it, which is a true statement. But what if I keep doing it? What if I keep pushing through, even though I'm tired, even though I might only be able to do 5 minutes today, 6 minutes tomorrow? If you keep pushing through, you'll eventually build that habit. So the two pieces of advice: one is read in the morning if you don't want to read at night. Second, though, is if you're still watching TV or doing other time wasting activity, right, then you just need to build that habit. You just need to do it. And you might not have the highest absorption. I sometimes at night, I'll have to reread a page a couple of times. And at some point, like last night, after I wanted to read for 45, after 15 minutes, I was just done and I went to sleep. That's okay. If you're exhausted and you go to sleep, I'm cool with that. But if you put down the book and you turn on the TV, I have a problem. Like, because that means you still have some time or mindset left in you. So you just want to sort of balance it out. Yeah, audiobooks is another option that you have there. Yeah, so Jeff, we have some great comments from the team. Jeff says, Pookie, you could sub out reading and use audiobooks or masterclass and go for 1 hour walk and listen, break it up throughout the day. That's great. Or I tried audiobooks, but my mind wanders too much and I feel like I miss too much of what's being said. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't like audiobooks. Some people love it. My son loves it. My son does, Jeff, exactly what you does. What you does. Excellent. Can you tell I'm tired? What you do is he goes for a 45 to 60-minute walk at college in the evening, and he just has an audiobook playing in the background. So that's one option. Or like I said, I just sit outside and I read a book knowing, and I pick the book based on how tired I am. If I'm super tired, I pick a lighter book than a heavier book. And we have a hello from Switzerland. Oh, woohoo! So, all right, we got our international Ciso group being formed here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah, Switzerland, I haven't been there in a while, but I did go there a long time ago, and it is a beautiful country. So awesome, awesome, awesome. Great to have you here. I'm working as a cybersecurity manager with CISSP and CISM certifications. How do I get on becoming a CISO? Once again, certifications or certifications, and I would list them, those two only. I would list them under your education. I wouldn't have a whole section on certification on your resume, but I don't like it. But there are some companies out there that like their CISO to have a CISSP. It's just a validation check. So the fact that you have those certs, I would just list them under education at the bottom of your resume or CV. And then it really just comes down to making sure you have the balance between cybersecurity business. So if you don't have a lot of business experience, read books, go to conferences, do the immersion, and then start applying for jobs. The best way to figure out how to become a CISO is to be a CISO, right? There's plenty of CISO positions out there. So don't be afraid of rejection. And I would say get that CV ready where you apply to 20 jobs, you're getting 10 to 12 interviews, and just start applying and see where your weaknesses are. See what the problems are that you're not able to address during the interviews. Work on those skill sets. And then over time, you'll get that job. The other exercise I like giving people is go to the internet, go to LinkedIn, and start researching CISOs and come up with 35 specific skills that world-class CISOs have. So just go and look at different CISOs. There's a lot of CVs out there on LinkedIn. Just research, and I want you to create a very specific list of 35 or more attributes of what you would consider a world-class CISO to be. Then I want you to take a yellow highlighter and highlight all the skills that you have. What I find with most people is you have more of the CISO skills than you realize, right? So you actually are CISO material, you just don't realize it. Now, either way, whether you have a lot or a little yellow, you shouldn't have all yellow. I'm not trying to be mean here, but if you have all yellow, you're probably being too generous on yourself, right? I don't know anybody that like has every possible skill set out there, so you're probably being a little too generous. But most folks are going to have anywhere from 10 to 60% yellow. Then I want you to take a pink highlighter and everything that's not in yellow, I want you to say, okay, what are skills or a skill that if I put some time, energy, and effort, I could learn over the next quarter? You could do it monthly, you can do it 45 days, you can do 90 days. But I find 90 is sort of a nice bridge there. So what are a few skills that if you put in time, energy, and effort, either you went to training, you went to a conference, you read a book, you immersed yourself, what are a few skills that you can learn? 90 days, highlight those and pick. Now you have your roadmap. Focus on learning those skills. Then apply for jobs. If you're still not getting jobs, then repeat that exercise. And what you're finding is over time, you're doing feedback loop. You're figuring out, okay, am I ready to get jobs? And if not, then what are skills that I can learn to get closer to getting that job? And then you continue to go in and learn those skills. Excellent. Okay, so field CISO, a new title at some software vendors, meeting with customer CISOs, and not focused on any single product, but more of a CISO advisor. Ultimately, okay. Ultimately, a sales aligned role. Thank you. First of all, I appreciate, because I always love learning, right? I'm never going to claim to know everything. So that's great that that's a sort of a new title companies are using. Awesome. Now that makes perfect sense. So a field CISO basically at a software vendor where you're not focused on the security at your company because you're a vendor, but all your customers or clients, you're working with those CISOs to help them with strategy. And I guess ultimately, even though you're not focused on product, right, ultimately to try to help them align or sell your product. So that's awesome there. Sorry, I'm just going back now. Okay, I have to go back to your original question. So, okay, now that I know what a field CISO is, Eric, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what a field CISO needs to bring to the table. To me, what they really need to bring to the table, it's sort of what you highlighted there. It's sort of a fine line. Is you need to be an honest broker. You need to really become a trusted confidant with the security team, the Ciso, or the executives that you're going to make the best recommendation to them, even if it's not your company's products. And I know that's a fine line because ultimately it's going to be where if you're a field CISO and you're being paid by a vendor, but you're selling all your competitors' products, right? That's problematic. But what it comes down to is you need to be a trusted advisor. They need to trust you that your primary reason for being there is to help them secure the enterprise. Your secondary reason, of course, is to sell your company's products, but your primary reason is to help them understand and build out a strategy so they can pick the best products that are out there. Now, to me, what it comes down to is if you're doing that, if you're the trusted advisor showing them what they need to do and they're not picking your product, then you need to work with your product development team of saying, okay, why are we not winning? I opened the door. I had a great opportunity, but they picked a different product. Now, here's the cool part. If you really built up that trust to help them and they pick somebody else's product, you should be able to ask them why. You should be able to figure out why they did that. And then you're getting data that you could feed back to your team to make your product better and more appropriate. So to me, I don't know if your company would agree, but in my point, an ideal field CISO is working with the customer, building out strategy, identifying their biggest pain points, and helping them pick the best solution. And then if they don't pick your product, figure out why and then feed that back to your development team to build out the product. So in the future, they would pick that product. Got my CISO job. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. Woohoo. All right. Got my CISO job. Thanks to all your advice. I've been watching you for months. Help me be less technical, more strategic, focusing on business as you always repeat. Thanks a lot. First of all, you did all the work. So, it's easy for me to say, do this, but I will tell you there's not a lot of people that actually do the work. So congrats to you on that. That's awesome, awesome news. And I love hearing that feedback. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I just finished my first audiobook yesterday. I'd always avoided them and I'm getting used to it now. Yeah, excellent. Once again, it's all just building new habits, right? Just because you didn't like something in the past doesn't mean you won't like it today, right? So try new things. And the other thing too is it's about absorption. I used to in the gym, right, listen to my music on my headphones. Now I have podcasts running in the background. Now, do I sometimes get distracted or focused on things and not get everything? Yes, but do I get more than if I was listening to music? Absolutely. So you don't always go in and say, well, listening at the gym isn't ideal, or I'm at night, I'm tired, and reading isn't going to give 100%. The question is, are you getting more than the alternative? Are you getting more benefit than the alternative that you would be doing if you weren't reading or listening to audiobooks? All right, we have Saudi Arabia in the house, another one of my favorite places to travel. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So we have another question from Zach. Do you have a problem with the current state of certs? Feels like they aren't a good measure of skill. Do we need something different? Is a PhD a better option? To me, what it always comes down to is you have to look at what it's meant to do, right? To me, a cert is not meant to say that you are an expert practitioner. A cert just says you know a certain amount of knowledge and was able to pass a test, right? Now, is that better than nothing? Yes, but that shouldn't be the sole criteria. So I guess I don't have a problem with the current state of certs. I have a problem with how people are using them. Right? People are basically going in and saying, if you have a cert, that means that you can perform this job. And that is not true. Right? You still have to test the skills, make sure all the cert says is you understand and know the knowledge that you needed in order to pass a test. Now, once again, you ask PhD, it's going to sound hypocritical because I do have my PhD. If it's something that's important to you, that you want to be able to sort of prove to yourself that you can become a doctor and have that knowledge and expertise, and you enjoy the research and you enjoy learning and you enjoy the schooling, then I encourage it, because it is something that down the road it can help you. Like, for example, the fact that I have my PhD allows me to go into different lines of business. It does help with expert witness work, with executive boards and things like that. However, if it's not something that's really interesting you, or what I call sort of calling you, going, yeah, I really want to do that, then to me, no. Don't go in and say, I have to do this and torture yourself for 5 or 6 years just to say I need that PhD. You don't need it to be a CISO. Most CISOs don't have their PhD. Most executives don't have their PhD. So it's not a better option. To me, the best options are reading, conferences, events. I'm really a fan now. I'm at a different place in the career, but to me, all of my energy and effort right now is reading books, hanging out with people that are where I want to be, masterminds, things like that, and then attending conferences. Because to me, conferences give you access to people, access to resources, and access to cutting edge information. So I would really say, if you want to get more into CISO, more into executive level and that, I would sort of put certs and degrees and that kind of stuff on hold for a while. And any time, money, or energy you have, really focus in on the masterminds, the networking, and the conferences, because that's really where you're going to round out your skill set. And most importantly, your network. The network is that most important thing when you're moving in and becoming a CISO. Uh, so next question is, I feel like an imposter having field CISO title, but I'm not a CISO. I might introduce myself as a CISO advisor. I guess, yeah, I would say field CISO is a weird term, right? It sort of sounds a little bizarre. You're more a CISO advisor, a CISO coach, strategic, any of those types of things, I would say would fit better. So I would talk to your boss and see if you can switch that on your signature line or business cards or things like that as CISO advisor. I think that's a much better fit and aligns much better with what you're doing than sort of a field CISO. Excellent. So that actually, I love it when we can get through all the questions, and we're right on time at 10:15. So as always, if you're not listening to our Life of a CISO, I pre-record 30 minutes. That comes out at 9 o'clock every Thursday. And then we do our live Q&A. I appreciate everyone joining us. Yeah, this was awesome. This energizes me, gets me ready for the day. Like I said, I'm 3 hours behind on the West Coast, so I'm ready to rock and roll. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, if there's anything we can do to help you, please let us know. We do have various types of advanced accelerated training that is paid. So I just want to make that available to you. But otherwise, I'm not going to stop with the free content because I love giving that out there. Have an amazing week, and I will see everyone next Thursday. And as always, reach out if you need anything. Thank you so much, and have an awesome day.